Hi George, sorry that I'm going to ask you what probably everyone's going to ask you, but I wasn't there in Qatar, so after all the mess with Max, we've heard that he said some stuff privately to you also after the stewards. Can we know your version of the facts?
Yeah, I mean, I've already said once what Max has said to me. I don't want to repeat over and over again. For me, we fight hard on the track. We fight hard in the stewards. And it's never personal. And what happened at the weekend, from my side to Max, was not personal. The same way as in the race, Max telling his team to check for Lando with the yellow flag is not personal from Max to Lando. It's part of racing, but the words he said is totally unnecessary. He's crossed the line, and I'm not going to accept it. So, somebody has to stand up to someone who thinks he's above the law.
Yeah, George, about that, can you elaborate a bit on what happened in the stewards meeting, why these things happened, and also the aftermath of that, what then you guys said to each other? Have you spoken with him about it already? What can you tell us about it from your side?
I mean, we went into the stewards for the first 5 minutes. I didn't say a word because they were only talking to Max, and he was already angry and swearing at the stewards. And then when they asked for my opinion, I told them exactly the facts. I was following my delta time. We all have this lap time we have to follow. They also say if you're driving slow, you need to move off the line. And I wasn't trying to get Max a penalty. I was, at this point in qualifying, I was in first position. Max, I don't even think Max was in second position at this point. I was just trying to prepare my lap. He was 20 seconds too slow on his lap. He was parked in the middle. And I didn't argue with the stewards. But Max was very angry that I didn't support him because he was expecting me to say, no problem, what Max did was okay. And it wasn't crazy dangerous. And was the penalty harsh? Maybe it was a little bit harsh, but these are the rules. We all have the rules, and we all have to follow it. I would love to go 20 seconds slower on my preparation lap to get my tyres ready, but I didn't.
Clearly you have different views on this. Did you sit down with each other and spoken about it with each other, just in private, look each other in the eye and talk about it?
Yeah, I went to speak with him on Sunday morning at the drivers' parade. Was myself, Max, Checo and Carlos. We almost laughed about it, but I could see in his eyes that he was angry, and the words that he said, he meant it. And for me, that was very surprising. I haven't got him disqualified. It almost feels like he expects a double standard, and if it's not going his way, then there's no way, and that's not how the sport works. So I was, as I said, I've known Max for 12 years. I've respected him all of this time, but now I've lost respect for him because we're all fighting on track, and it's never personal. Now he's made it personal, and someone needs to stand up to a bully like this. And so far, people have let him get away with murder.
It's taken another. I don't know if you heard Max in the press conference. He said, I think I've written down the quote correctly, I never expected anybody to try that hard to get me a penalty, lying about what I was doing and why. So he's saying that you were being dishonestly, you were lying about what he was doing.
Well, not really. What he was doing was pretty clear. He was going too slow, and he was on the racing line, and we all have the rules to follow, and he doesn't follow it. So as I said, I find his comments pretty ironic when he comes out and says, I'm going to purposefully crash into you, I'm going to put you on your fucking head in the wall. For me, that is unacceptable, and he's gone beyond the line here, and I'm not going to accept it. So somebody's got to stand up to a guy like this before it gets out of control.
What further step would you take? Is there something you can ask for whether that's broken any more rules, not wanting to go back into
I don't want to
but,
go to the steward's office. I don't want to. I had no intention of bringing this up. He said this to me on Saturday night, and I woke up Sunday morning feeling fine. But to come out of those press interviews and saying that I'm two-faced, that I'm a F-word and this and that. He's taking this personal. What happens on track is professional. What happens in the stewards is professional. And like Carlos said to him on Sunday morning, you would have done the exact same thing. And on Sunday in the race, he lifted through a yellow. Lando doesn't lift through a yellow, and he says to the team, check what Lando does. That's not personal against Lando.
Yeah.
That is just racing.
Was there an integrity line as well? Because I think he referred to you and your FIA mates, suggesting that, you know, maybe it is an British driver, I don't know, you're in league, I don't know, somehow with the FIA, you and your FIA mates.
I mean, it's pretty clear. We all have to, on your out lap, you all have to follow a certain lap time, because the stewards don't want you trundling around too slow when you've got a car driving at 200 miles an hour. He was in breach of that. I was following to the letter of the law. I wasn't trying to get him a penalty, but that's just how things transpired. And at the end of the day, I was on pole position at that time of the session. He went on to pole position. But it's racing. All of this is racing. But he's felt the need to take it personal. I have no idea why he's done that. And he cannot deal with adversity. Whenever anything is not going his way, he lashes out with unnecessary anger and borderline violence. You know, I've seen it in Brazil in the past with Ocon. You saw it in 21 with Lewis, and then Mexico with Lando. First race of the year in Budapest, when he didn't have the most dominant car, crashes into Lewis, slamming his whole team. That is not a guy who I respect. And, you know, I wish he would be a better role model.
Okay, just to finally put Max's point, I think we should probably put Max's point, which was that he felt that, you know, you crossed a line in terms of respect was broken, and he would say, well, I'm not lashing out, I'm just telling the truth, and that's the way I am. That's the way he would say, that's just the way I am. I tell the truth, I say the way it is. Just a point.
Well, I'm telling the truth that he said to me he's going to put me on my fucking head.
Yeah.
And for me, that's crossing a line.
All right, thank you.
George, I've never in my entire time in F1 seen you so angry. How do you go forward from this? Because you're
to be honest, I'm not that angry. I'm disappointed it's come to this, because I've known Max for 12 years. I know what he's like, and I never had any intention of ever throwing him under the bus, ever. But then to come out and, you know, question my integrity after the things he said to me the night before, I'm not going to accept. You know, the guy thinks he can get away with anything and that he's above the law. People have made it easy for him the last couple of years. Lewis was the only guy recently to fight him hard and fairly. And in my view, in 21, with how Lewis raced him, you know, that's the gold standard. You race hard, you race aggressive, but Lewis never went beyond the line. Never, ever. And, you know, that is the driver and world champion I aspire to be like.
So what do you do now?
I don't do anything now. I'm just putting the truth out there, because he's slamming me in the media, saying I'm this two-faced whatever, saying that I'm lying to the stewards. I'm not just going to sit here and let him get away with everything that he said and slamming me like that. So I've said my bit now. It's not going to change at all how I race, how I go into this race weekend. I'm excited to be back in Abu Dhabi for the last race of the season. For me, as soon as I walk out of here, this is sort of case closed and I move on. But it's got a little bit too much now.
George, you say you're going to move on, and you also said that Max is, you've lost a lot of respect for him. How does Max gain your respect back?
He doesn't need to gain my respect. He doesn't need to gain anybody's respect. And at the end of the day, what we're doing, we're professionals. We fight on the track. And there was a time when it felt like everybody had a certain amount of respect for one another. But coming out and taking things personal, when ultimately there's absolutely no reason for it. It's qualifying, it's a one-place grid penalty, and we're not talking like I've crashed into him on the last race of the World Championship and he's lost the World Championship, of which I maybe would kind of understand him being so angry, but coming out and saying you're going to put a driver on his effing head in the wall, is too much.
Thanks, George.
You've said people have been bullied by Max for years. What do you mean by that?
Well, he always seems to get his way, but of course it's easy to get your way when you have the fastest car. If the season started in Austria, he's won the same number of races as Lando, as myself, as Lewis, as Charles, and things are a different story. So, what he's achieved on track, you cannot question, and he's an exceptional racing driver. But to come out and thrash someone so personally in the media, as I said, I'm not going to stand for it, and I'm not going to accept it. So it's about time someone puts him in his place, and I hope next season that we all have race cars like we've had towards the end of this season, that we can fight fairly, head to head, and that's how Formula One should be. And this dominance of the last 2.5 years until the middle of this year, that is not the norm.
Thank you.